Welcome to another episode of More Than Therapy. Today's guest is Valerie Diluggo. 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 Diluggo.
Oh yes. I love where that went.
Valerie is a marriage and family therapist and a dating and relationship coach. She is passionate about helping people love and be loved. She helps women date in the patriarchy and helps couples learn practical and actionable relationship skills so their relationships flourish. Valerie's talks and teachings are all colored with humor and vulnerability. Today we're going to talk about stop that toxic shit before that shit starts. You probably say, damn, Blue, we ain't really heard you cuss before. But remember, in our last broadcast, we said we're going to start being our authentic self. And what's more authentic than using your true languages in expressive ways that you enjoy them? You know that you can use the word motherfucker 5,000 different ways and have it have that many different meanings. Yes, you can ask Samuel Jackson about that. Anyways.
Yes.
Valerie, please tell the listening and watching audience about you before we get into our very titillating topic.
Yes, you set us up very well. I would like a recording of that song you made for my last name. No one's ever gone there before, and I really like it as like a reggae jam. Yeah, as you said, I'm a marriage and family therapist. I'm a dating and relationship coach, and I want to help people to love and be loved. It's tough. Where do we learn this stuff? I was just talking to some friends today, like, where do we learn this stuff? And so there's just lots of applicable, easy to use tools, skills that can help us feel better in love. So that's what I do.
Indeed. I hear the word narcissism thrown a lot. Like,
yeah.
Way too much. Like, what is? Now then, I don't want to put you on the spot. Now we can pause and pick up our book and read it.
Yeah.
Is the definition
Google
of narcissism.
Symptoms of narcissism.
You ain't got to give me every attribute that makes it DSM classifiable, but give me some attributes that we would define as narcissism.
Sure. Right, and I love that you're wanting to be your more authentic, just everyday self on your podcast. So I love that. And sometimes fucker is the best the best way to describe how someone's acting. So sometimes people are just being assholes, and sure, I'm glad that we're talking about narcissism because it is a personality disorder. It is a way of being in the world that is really makes it difficult for this person to have healthy relationships. And usually affects all areas of their life, but there's a real lack of empathy, a lack of taking responsibility for their own actions. There's a lot of defensiveness, right? To taking responsibility for their own actions, like never their fault, right? And there could be delusions of grandeur, feeling like they deserve to be treated better than other people on a certain elevated level. And there's one more I was just thinking about, but yeah, the difficulties in relationships, it's really hard. So I mean, just like self-care, right? A lot of things that companies are trying to sell us maybe aren't real self-care, right? So I'm glad the word is out there. There's a lot of gaslighting that has to do, like they might talk you out of believing something that you are saying. I know the other one was about responsibility. So taking responsibility for their actions. So and sorry, the other one was that usually life revolves around them. I think that is. Oh, I just lost your audio. I'm sorry.
So we could probably say that every little kid is probably narcissistic to some degree, right? Me, 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 No,
right, and then you're supposed to grow out of that, right,
right,
where
right.
you're developing your sense of self, right? Like babies don't realize that they're a separate person from their parents, so when they start going, that's mommy's coat, that's daddy's coat, they're not trying to be little brats, they're like showing they're showing their development. Yeah.
Indeed.
But in a relationship, if that resonates with you, then yeah, if the relationship is really revolving around one person, like I had a client that said, I felt like he was the sun and I was just a planet revolving around him. Yeah, that's a kind of toxic, right?
Sad that she had to have that experience, but he was the sun and she was the planet revolving around him. But then she really thought high of herself. No.
Well, and then so then we can go, right, then we'll go into maybe some of the systems, right, that that contribute to the parts we play, gender roles, being in the patriarchy. I talk about helping women date in the patriarchy because it's that, right, like there's a certain situation going on there, and just women feeling powerless or feeling like maybe the man has all the control, or that they're the one that needs to be, like, they need to please him, right? So how do you find your power, your yourself, your choice in those situations?
Right. When people come into your practice with these relationship issues, do you find that narcissism is one of the core foundational issues, that me, world revolve around me, I'm the sun, you're an earth, or better yet, a Venus, the love planet, circling around me, making me feel good about myself. And when you get too close, I just burn too hot, baby.
Yeah, I'd say, and thankfully, right, that personality disorder isn't the largest portion of problems I see. I think the biggest, but I think connected to it, and I know we said, stop this toxic shit before it starts. The biggest thing that I see, and what I can kind of, even just, if I can speak to your listeners, your viewers, is centering yourself is sort of the kryptonite, to try and sort of stop, or the vitamins you take to try and to ward off toxic relationships. So if you are centering yourself and what you need, then you really can't be, a moon that job is just to circle someone else's orbit, right? It's just not going to work. Yeah. Yeah, the audio. It's been a day. That's what I've heard. It's been a day around the more than therapy world. So
I was just reflecting and just in silence about how I see a lot of these relationships, and they have like that high component of narcissism, those that end in domestic violence. I get a lot of clients that have been impacted by trauma. And of course, this trauma a lot of times not only comes from their childhood, but in adulthood, in which they might say, oh, he was a narcissistic. And then she named the traits that make her believe that's the case. And I was like, yeah, I can't diagnose him, but that sounds about right.
Right. Right. And I'm not, your therapist can't diagnose someone else that's not their client. But I do say, well, you are describing some symptoms that, and the diagnosis maybe for me and you isn't as important as to how are you going to, what do you need to do, right? What are you and I going to do, or how do you interact with someone that maybe is showing certain signs or symptoms or behaviors, right?
Right.
Yeah. I think I see a lot of clients who have a hard time prioritizing themselves and checking in on themselves. And I don't know you know, I can only speak maybe from sort of a female gendered, if we're talking about the binary, right? Like, um, people that are socialized as women, um, we're sort of taught to be caretakers, and a lot of our worth is found in who we're taking care of and who we're making happy. And so the thought of centering yourself when you're looking for love or when you're in a relationship, well, first of all, is not always rewarded, right? People don't always like it when we start to prioritize ourselves and say, what do I need? How does this feel? Before we make a decision and consider other people. And so that's one of the first places I start. Because I've had clients walk in and talk about a date they're on and how they didn't, let's say, like how close the guy was sitting or how much he was touching her on a first date. And she just kept talking about how she wanted to make sure he didn't get upset with her. And I said, well, how did you feel about it? Did you like it? Did it feel good? And her eyes just like something clicked, and she said, not once did I think about what I wanted or how I felt about it. I was just thinking about him. And so in those situations, sure, that can set us up for sort of becoming that moon that revolves around someone else, or resentment creeps in because we are not taking care of ourselves, and eventually that'll start to rise in a relationship.
Indeed, indeed.
And our culture thinks that centering ourselves is selfish. And so that's another, I think we put that on our little ticker, like centering yourself is not selfish.
No, not by any means.
But even as I say it, I have to admit, even as I say it, it sounds selfish. And I know that I have to fight against that.
Right. It's like we're conditioned to think a certain way or feel a certain way. And that, especially those in the helping field, they're like, help, and less focus on us, which is why a lot of us fall into burnout because we didn't properly address our wellness. And that's one of the fallacies of being in the helping field. But back to narcissism.
Mm-hmm.
They were charming as fuck at first. It's funny how like they put on all the charm in the beginning. They're your Prince Charming and you're the Cinderella, and he takes your little glass shoe and puts it in your foot. Why would you want to walk around in a glass shoe? That just sounds like a recipe for trouble.
Recipe for disaster.
You know what I'm saying? Sound like you want your foot cut up to little pieces, but I digress. And then, slowly, they start to change. I remember one time I was reflecting on a relationship I had, and I was like, people show you who they are pretty early on. We just have to pay attention to the clues. And sometimes we'll say something to the effect of, oh, this is temporary, or they won't always act like this, or they're just going through something. I'm sure if I showed them enough love, or I showed them enough care, if I showed them I won't leave them despite this, they'll grow out of it and become better. And then we set ourselves up to be in these relationships that often hurt us in the end.
Amen. I tell people, this is the advice I give. I say the stuff in the the stuff in the beginning of your relationship will be the stuff in your relationship. And I don't know if you see from your side of the street if you think men do this as much as I think women do it, but we'll get with our girlfriends and like, oh well, he did this, but maybe it was because of this, and well, maybe because of that. And just like you said, we don't have context yet, and if we're interested, or if we have a need, or if we're just like, please pick me because I can't be alone, then we start to rationalize. And I think in genuine good naturedness, we try to give people the benefit of the doubt. But I think it was Maya Angelou, right, that said, when people show us who they are, we need to listen. And I've started to explain it like this. I'm like, look, you pretend that you're on safari, you're in the jungle, you're somewhere, and you got your little notebook, and you've seen a new species, and you don't know, right? You don't know anything about this new species. You really need to get confirmation. Wait, did he just dig a hole before he ate his food? Did he really just use his right paw to scratch, and then this, and just not what you want it to be, right? Our brains fill in all the information that we don't have with the information that we want it to be, and that's just human nature. I did it the other day at the store when I saw there's these lipsticks were on sale, and I said, oh great, I love this lipstick, I'm gonna grab one. I get to the counter, they're like, no, only this color and that color. I said, oh, and she said, it's on there. So I went back and looked. Sure enough, it was on there. But I really wanted all the lipsticks to be on sale, And so our brain just fills it in. I talk about that as well, about online dating. The faster that you can get on the phone or get on a FaceTime or meet in person, the less time your brain has to make up this character that you would like this person to be, and you get the real data. And if you're looking for someone who has a great heart, let's say, like, look for the facts, write them down. I have one client writing down actions because there was a lot of love bombing in the beginning. That's a term you'll hear with narcissism as well. These grand gestures, and it's about the chase, and then they've got you hooked in, right? How can you, once your brain hears, like, I've never felt this way before, I've never saw myself before, you've changed my mind about love, or grand, audacious, romantic gestures, that leaves an imprint on your brain. And it is,
especially if you never experienced that before, or your last relationship or the last couple didn't live up to that, or didn't give that amount of love.
Yeah.
Like, you might have been the giver, and not the receiver as much. And then all of a sudden somebody comes out the blue and they're showering you with these illustrious gifts and all this attention, only for to feed them later on. You know what I'm saying? Another attribute about a narcissist is that they hog up all the conversation, talking about how great they are. So then they flip it like, oh, I do this and I do that. That's why, just to make sure that people don't put me in that category, I always try to limit. I don't know nothing about you. Oh, so what's the balance? You know what I'm saying?
Yes. I say that if you want to be in a relationship, you need to be a curious person. You need to you need to have some desire to know another person, to ask questions about their life, to understand them deeper. And if you're on a first date, second date, and you're doing all the talking, and they're not asking you any questions about yourself, first give a pause, because all of us can be, talk too much sometimes, right? Especially if we're nervous. But give some pauses in the conversation, because maybe, they're looking for an in, maybe they're a little shyer, a little more introverted. Maybe they're not sure what to say or what to ask, but give some room, and see if they're curious and interested about you, or caring how your day was. And if they don't, ask yourself, do you want that? Do you want the next, however many years, if you're looking for like a partner, is that what you want every day? How does that make you feel? Check in with your body, center yourself. The body has the answers. The body holds trauma, the body holds joy. I think that we kind of shut off our bodies sometimes, but it can give us some really great information.
Indeed. Another attribute that we find, they feed off your compliments. Ooh, tell me more about how much you like me.
Yes. And I think a lot of it too is what they'll do to get the compliments, right? Behavior that will put them in a place where people, oh, you're just so amazing at that, or all of that kind of uh, behavior, attention-seeking behavior.
Right. Indeed.
Needing to be the
indeed.
center of attention.
Right. But who doesn't want compliments? I think compliments, I think there's a balance, you know what I'm saying? I mean, who doesn't feed, but I mean, that's kind of a tricky one, because who doesn't feed off of compliments? I mean, if that's their love language, right? You know what I'm saying? Words of admiration or whatever it's called, I would think
Affirmation,
so.
yeah.
Yeah,
I like
exactly.
admiration too. Yeah.
Oh, no, that's not me. No, I hate that one. Mine is
I think
gifts.
I think we could go. Yeah. I think we can go back to like these behaviors, when put together, really get in the way of them having healthy relationships,
Mhm.
right? Patterns of, if somebody has no, like, they can't tell you a good friend, or they've sort of left this wake of burned bridges, or, oh, I don't talk to them anymore, oh, we had a fight, oh, this or that, too many of those, right? And I think I like to use, we talk about red flags. Actually, I heard a quote the other day, I don't know if you saw it, but it said, if you have rose-colored glasses on, red flags just look like flags. And I thought, ooh, that's interesting. That's a great. I love analogies and visuals.
And red lights look green. Oh my gosh!
Right, you can't tell. But I also think it's really good to identify the green flags, and I'll talk to clients like, well, that sounds like he apologized. He was able to listen. Okay, that sounds like a green flag to me.
Yeah,
and then there's sort of like yellow flags, like, okay, let's just see what happens. Like, is it time? Is it you need to have a conversation? Nothing wrong with compliments. I think maybe compliment seeking behavior, when it kind of feels all consuming, like the person gets angry, right? Or your whole date is about, people admiring or noticing, right? Your partner. That's where maybe we're going to raise some yellow flags. Yeah.
Indeed.
And I guess, can I say, like you said, this is tricky. Can I just say to everyone, I don't think there's no shame. There's no shame in realizing, like, oh, I think that maybe my relationship doesn't feel healthy, right? Maybe the person I'm with is showing some narcissistic traits, or even just like not emotionally intelligent, right? Like, I don't think they're really good about being in a relationship. Even abuse. You said you worked a lot with abuse. Like, it doesn't mean anything about you as a person if you find yourself in one of these relationships. I think what we're just trying to help is trying to stop them before they start, or recognizing the signs so that you can decide if you want to end that and find something that feels better. So no shame. No shame.
No shame. And no stigma regarding getting help. When you feel the need to get help, when you feel the need to reach out for support, please get it. There's should be no shame or stigma associated with it. For example, I'm a therapist who sees a therapist. I believe that if you're a therapist, you should see a therapist. And if you don't, I think you're doing a disservice to the mental health field. No shade on those that don't seek therapy and they have it all together. But this is America, 2022.
Yeah.
I advise you to get therapy.
Yeah. Yeah. Check in with someone. 100%. I agree.
So they also want another attribute about them is they lack empathy. Tell us more about this. What does this mean? Because honestly, I don't know how to live without being empathetic.
Yeah. And so it makes sense that you're in the field you're in. So empathy, we also talk about emotional intelligence, and well, let's start with empathy. Empathy is the ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes and kind of guess, wonder, understand how they might feel, or even just the act of trying to put yourself in someone else's shoes and try to understand how they might be feeling, or understanding a situation from their vantage point, and then to sort of validate that feeling. even just to be able to step outside of yourself is the first step of empathy. And emotional intelligence, the true definition of that, which EQ is talked about a lot, and I love the research that's showing what we know, is that it's important to every facet of life, your job, your relationship, everything. Emotional intelligence is your ability to step out of yourself and empathize with what someone else is going through, and the ability to see that in your own self, right? You need to be able to see that in your own self first. You'd be able to connect with another person and put yourself in their shoes. And then the third component is to have the skill to be able to navigate the communication between you two and any conflict resolution that arises. So one part of that is the empathy, and empathy really is at its purest form is the ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes and imagine what they might feel like. And someone that's suffering from narcissist personality disorder, that's really difficult for them. It's really, really tough, and they don't show a lot of empathy or compassion. And one theory behind it, right, is that the narcissist self-esteem and their self-image is so fragile that that is why these defenses are so strong, right?
Indeed.
Yeah, so they're not able to show themselves compassion and therefore cannot show it to another.
Great point. Great point.
I love that. I love that. Thank you.
They don't have any.
I wish I had that for my therapy sessions, right? When I just bam, just hit the mark. Like, yes, thank you very much.
You got to get some of these buttons right here. You get them from Staples, and you click on them, and it says different things. Like, hey, yeah, that's it, girl. Woo, yeah, woo, yeah.
Okay, I need one.
Staples, $5.99.
That's great.
They don't have any or many long-term friends, so their friendships are strained. So it seems like their whole focus is on you because they don't have no other way for them to divert their attention, right?
Yeah, and the whole cluster of personality disorders in the DSM, which is just a big old manual that talks about different symptoms of different diagnoses.
Did you just say it was a big hot mess? Yeah. You're right.
Yes, thank you for that interpretation. Yes. And it's that. Yes, you can tell how we feel about that's good for therapy too. No, I didn't. I wasn't kind to myself. This whole list of diagnoses have a difficulty in maintaining relationships. And yeah, I would be curious, right, about anybody before we go, diagnosing. But if you're wondering about someone you're dating, if they're not able to keep long-term friendships, you need the same skills to keep up a long-term romantic relationship as well. So, I mean, we're differentiating, right? So some people just have one or two good friends. Some people, are shy. Some people have a difficulty relating. So I'm not saying that, it's a red flag if someone doesn't have that many friends. But if you notice, if you're listening, you can pick up on some of these things and really notice. Also, I also say, like having a roommate, like I was about to say friendships are practiced for your romantic relationships. So you want someone you're dating, like, to have some good friendships, right? That they've been practicing on before they met you. But also, like, roommates, I always say, if you want to live with somebody, like, romantically, go get a roommate first, and then because if you go from, like, having your own place or your parents' house to living with someone, that might be a little bit of a shock. Practice on somebody that you're not trying to sleep with. Just saying. Not practice sleeping with them, practice living, practice like negotiating the dishes, negotiating who's going to clean.
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Okay. And then they say they pick on you constantly. So they always finding something to nitpick around. You're too fat. You're too skinny. You don't clean up enough. Oh, your hair looks awful. Da, da, da. These clothes look like shit on you. Dang, girl, what's up with that fupa? You know what I'm saying? No, I'm sorry. There's different things. Because I wonder if that's really just because by making you feel less than and making themselves feel better.
And because their sense of self isn't very internalized, it's not very strong, they find their value in the people around them. So you need to be perfect. So it really comes back to them, right? Yeah, and very controlling. I mean, I've heard so many terrible stories of, people not being able to get haircuts because they'd get yelled at if they cut their hair, by their, partner, all different things. So, yeah. And that's going to wear, and then if you are questioning your value or your self-esteem, those can feel very true, can't they? Someone starting to pick and next thing you know, you're really doubting yourself. And then that makes it even more difficult to say, hey, I don't deserve this treatment, or hey, maybe I could be in a healthier, this doesn't feel like love,
Right.
But there's always just enough, right? As we talk about, the cycle of abuse, where there's, an incident, and then there's the honeymoon phase, and then things go back to normal, and then there's the triggering incident, and then the blow up, and then there's the honeymoon phase, right? And so sometimes people don't pick up on it, right? They're just trying to get through to the next crisis or whatnot. So that's another cycle that would be really helpful to be aware of early on.
Indeed.
Mm-hmm.
They gaslight you. This word has always thrown me. Like, what is? I mean, I know what it means.
Taught it to a client the other day.
Term for me. They gaslighted me. What? Yes.
Please prove you know the true definition before you use it.
No,
not you. I mean clients who are learning, on social media, which is great. That's the thing too. Like, okay, I'm glad that people are talking about gaslighting in pop culture, right? That's really right. When I started out as a therapist, my first clients had no idea the term self-care, no idea. And now, I sort of have to retrain people about what self-care is, but I'm glad it's being talked about. Same thing with narcissism, same thing with the term gaslighting. And I actually had to explain it to a client because they didn't know the term. And I was trying to remember from grad school the story about like somebody smelling gas. I think this is where it came from. And they're like, no, you're like, you're imagining things. But basically it's someone who, if you say, hey, the house is on fire, they're like, no, I don't see it. Or you lied to me, or you were texting someone. No, I wasn't. I was blah blah blah. And somehow they spin it so that you start to doubt yourself. Like, I just saw it with my own eyes. How are they trying to gaslight me on this one? So yeah, I think where it can be misapplied is whether you're just having an argument or someone sees something in a way that's different than you do, right? That's if it's true, like, well, I felt the waitress was being rude. I didn't think she was so rude. You could validate that your partner felt disrespected, or but you can have a different opinion. But gaslighting is really trying to convince you that something you pretty much know is true did not happen.
And some signs of gaslighting are you no longer feel like the person you used to be. You feel more anxious and less confident than you used to be. You often wonder if you are being too sensitive. You feel like everything you do is wrong. You always think it's your fault when things go wrong. You are apologizing often. For what? You have a sense that something's wrong, but you're not able to identify what it is. You often question whether your response to your partner is appropriate, and you make excuses for your partner's behavior. That are signs that you have been gaslighted, sweetie.
Yeah.
You doubt yourself, and he has contributed to your insanity in which you then live in your own insanity. But you're not crazy. They are.
Man, I was feeling sad. Yeah, and just hearing that list, I was sad for that person that's going through that. Because I think, right, and we're trying to be sensitive to people who are called crazy, right, and using that as a mental health slur. But when you're being gaslit, you do feel like, am I losing my mind? Like, is there something wrong with me? Am I, right, just like you said, being too sensitive, or am I the one that's wrong? Like, I'm doubting myself. I'm not sure what's right anymore. Yeah, that's a sign that yeah, things aren't going so well, huh?
Another sign is they dance around defining the relationship. Well, you know what? I ain't even gonna lie. I've been guilty of this my damn self, and I'm starting to wonder if I'm a narcissist. We don't go together, but yeah, I want all the attributes of being in that relationship with you. But nope, I'm not your boyfriend though. And now that I look at it, ooh, I really feel bad, and I think I'm gonna have to apologize to my ex about that. Where's this apology coming from? You stupid. Well, no, I just did a show about this. Trust me.
I love it. Well, I think that self-reflection shows that you are not you're not suffering from narcissistic personality disorder.
You only need 4 or 5 of the attributes to be it, right? I done made like 5 or 6 of them. Shit. Damn.
Look, you know what? I think, right, we're not diagnosing anyone. We don't want everyone to go out there and everybody thinking, oh, my partner's narcissist. But these aren't great things, right? And just, these aren't signs of healthy relationships. And if your partner is willing to work on things and listen, you know, some of these things a person can learn to have more empathy. There might be reasons, right, why they're dancing around the relationship status. You know, we talk about attachment theory, and some people that are more on the avoidant attachment side of things have a harder time with intimacy. And so I also talk about direct communication. I'm trying to make direct communication sexy again, okay? I don't know if it ever was. But direct communication, it would help everyone who's dating. I talk about dating smarter, not harder. And one way that you can find power in this wild dating situation we have on the internet, on the apps, is direct communication. If you're at the point where, hey, you know what? I'm not okay, just kind of like, oh, I don't know what we are anymore. Direct communication. Because it'll give you the information you need to make a decision. It might feel terrible to find out that they don't want to move forward or that they're going to dance around it, right? But it's giving you information, and then you can decide, do I really not want to do this anymore? This feels like I'm wasting my time. Or, okay, maybe he or she's got something to work out. Maybe checking in on therapy, right? Maybe it's just a conversation. But also there's power play stuff in here. So if it feels like, right, if it feels like a weird power play where somebody's holding all the power because they don't want to define the relationship, yeah, that's kind of toxic shit too, right?
They think they're right about everything and never apologize. See, that's not me right there. I apologize all the time.
That's right. I can vouch for you there. Ooh,
Yeah.
I think this is one of the toughest ones. The empathy and never being wrong. I feel like, right? Those are like the death punches to a relationship. Yeah.
That's all you want to say about that?
No. I was pausing because I'm trying to not be a narcissist too. I'm trying to let you talk.
No. You could be narcissist. Hello, we're famous.
No. Right before we started, I had asked if you had seen the show Inventing Anna, which is on Netflix right now, about sort of the socialite. And I mean, we've had some pretty high profile people, you know, showing some narcissistic behaviors recently. But
Kanye West? What? Kanye? What? Kanye who?
Yeah. Where's your button?
Easy.
I mean, yeah, you know,
Pete Davidson,
even
what?
higher up than that.
Donald Trump? What? Trump
What? Wow. Yeah. Oh my gosh. In this show, I mean, it was like they had her dead to rights, and she couldn't apologize. She just went on the attack, like, you know, hey, you like, I need you to give me that money, and then of course it's just an attack. Like, what a pathetic person. You're bothering me for $60,000. Do you know who I am? Where this girl had no money. I mean, it's just wild. The delusions of grandeur and the never being able to be wrong it's just there's that wall's pretty strong there.
Yeah, I look forward to freeing up some of my time this weekend to check it out. I'm hearing nothing but rave reviews about it. And the trailer is absolutely amazing. So that's what's the name of it again? And it's on Netflix. What is it again?
Inventing Anna.
Inventing Anna on Netflix. Yeah, check that out. They panic when you try to break up with them. But damn, I did that before too. Shit, goddamn. I mean, I don't know if I panic. I just felt some kind of way about it. Is that the same?
No. And I think this is great, right? I think this is great that you're talking like this, because again, we don't want to overdiagnose, right? Narcissism if it's not it. But sure, right? But again, in this show, every time somebody was starting to like see a crack or like she's about to get kicked out of another hotel, I hope I'm not spoiling too much, there was this great panic and a great emergency. Like everybody had to stop what they're doing to fix her situation, or, you know, she creates just this anger storm to not get rejected. And again, when you feel like you have no sense of self, or a very weak sense of self over your own goodness, it's almost unbearable for someone to reject you. Can I put it out there too? You know, people with ADHD, sometimes they can feel self-centered sometimes, and that is different than narcissism. And that's a different, you know, with ADHD, there's some like hyper focus, and so that can feel sort of like self-absorbed, but that is not, like, that's different than narcissism. There's also something called rejection sensitivity dysphoria, which really affects people in that feeling rejection very deeply, right? So just some differentials there while we're talking about this.
Are we gonna bring it back in? We're gonna get it back to the regular people. Shit, damn, fuck. All right, we back. Ooh, a little bit, something that's over my head, not as And when you show them that you're really done, they will fuck your world up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You gonna break up with me? Oh shit, motherfucker. Damn. Here we go again.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not a pretty thing, you know what I'm saying? What they'll do to try to win you back, thinking that's gonna win you back. I mean, if fear is gonna bring you back, then you definitely don't need to be in that situation, right?
Yeah. I sometimes say that like the narcissist can never lose, and so they will burn the whole shit down so you don't win. They will burn the building with themselves inside, barely get out because they can't lose. They can't lose. And so they will fight. So there's lots of books. I think the title is Disarming the Narcissist. That's a good one. But yeah, they can't lose. And so you have to expect some real acting out. Yeah.
So you're dating a narcissist. Now what? How do people stop themselves? So we're already dating one. How do they squeeze themselves up out that situation? You know, like the Transformers, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, what do they need to do to seek therapy, right? You know what I'm saying? Because honestly, they might blame themselves for the situation that they found themselves in, because one, maybe gaslighting influenced the way they were thinking, cognitively skewing their way of seeing the world, right?
Yeah, that's a good vogue yourself right out of that situation with the help of your therapist, for sure. You know, I think, like I said, I started out in the beginning. If you're, I think you have to know that you have to figure out a way to really get it from your head to your heart to your body that you are not deserving of this behavior, that you don't want to be there. And I think sometimes that takes time. I think, you know, there's usually some codependency, possibly, which is another word that maybe we should probably define well. But I like to say that, like, codependency is really about when I start feeling responsible for you and I don't let natural consequences happen for your actions. And so then I'm enabling you. And I don't realize, like, wait, that's not on my side of the fence. I gotta worry about what's over here. I can only be responsible for my actions and my values and how I move about the world. I actually can't control someone's reaction. Right. And that's a really hard one. So sometimes first it's about understanding boundaries. And because I see a lot of people who feel, for whatever reasons, traumas, society, they feel very responsible for the people around them, for their partners, for how people feel, people pleasing, right? Disappointing people. And not letting natural consequences fall for people's behaviors. I also think self-compassion, which is different than self-esteem. We get self-esteem by doing esteemable acts. If you want to feel better about yourself, go do your dishes. You go check off something, go do something at work, that, right? Those are esteemable acts, but that rises and falls on what we're doing. But self-compassion sees yourself as a full person, and that you're the collection of all your DNA and your ancestors, and knowing that you are deserving of love and compassion regardless of your behavior, and that you deserve love and respect just because you're here, whatever your spiritual beliefs may be, right? You find that your worth in that higher power, or in just you being here and being you. And then there's just strong boundaries and making some decisions and looking at, okay, what might the future look like without this person, and who am I? I mean, I've worked with people that have been in relationships, you know, for decades with someone, and that's, you know, that may take a little bit of time. But at the end of the day, it's about centering yourself, asking yourself first, well, do I want to do that? What do I need? What do I need today? What do I want? How does this feel? What's good for me? Will I be able to do that for someone? Do I have the margin? Do I have the resources to say yes? And even with that information, then we go into the world and then we compromise with the people that we're in relationship with, right? So centering yourself, knowing what you want and need, being in tune, noticing your body when you're with certain people, right? If you're still in that dating phase, but you're really nervous when you're around the person that you think you might be in love with, you're getting stomach aches, your muscles are all tight, right? Those are the body's trying to tell us something. So the more that you can center yourself, the less power someone else has over you. It's to make it all about them.
Indeed, indeed. But before we go, we're going to do a round of this or that. Are you ready?
Right. I think so.
Yeah.
I am.
Okay. Puppies or kittens, and why?
Puppies.
Why?
I think because dogs are like, they're just so earnest. They're so happy to see you. That's the kind of energy I want from a partner. I don't want a cat who's like, why are you here? That's not good relationship energy. I'm just making this up. Dogs have better relationship energy than cats. I said it.
Okay, respect. Reese Cups or Reese's Pieces?
I don't know who invented Reese's Pieces, but I feel sorry for them. They're just gross.
Yeah?
In my opinion, in my humble opinion.
I mean, this is your this or that, so it's all your opinion.
Yes, totally. Reese's Cups.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fitness foals or career goals, and why?
What's the first one?
Fitness foals, being focused on fitness or being focused on goals. So you have to say foals and goals because they rhyme. It's like a rhyme thing.
Okay. Fitness goals. Yeah. Or what's the second one?
Career goals.
Well, okay.
You have to marinate on that. Why do we have to choose? Why we can't have the best of both worlds, right?
Well, I work with a lot of young professionals who are in, Silicon Valley, San Francisco Bay Area, and like capitalism really only cares about you how much you produce for them. So I find myself often saying, your company doesn't care if you wear out your whole body trying to do this job for this company. It doesn't care about you. At the end of the day, it's not going to care about you. Somebody needed to hear that message today. And so I would say fitness goals.
Say it again.
At the end of the day, your company, no matter how much it says you're a family, it is not going to be there if you wear out your body full of stress and toxicity. It's not going to be there for you. So I'm going to say fitness goals but I'm very anti-diet culture though. So I'm going to say move your body, find joyful movement, and that will take care of you.
Good listener or good conversation, and why?
That's a hard one. I can't believe you're making me choose. I will say that
I'm a narcissist. What do you want?
Because one of my pet peeves is people who aren't good listeners. So I would say you can still have a good conversation with a good listener.
Yes.
But if someone's not a good listener, it's not going to be a good conversation. So I'll go with good listener. Thank you for helping me clarify my values.
Morning person or night owl, and why?
Man, we have moralized morning people, like, that, oh, the secret to every CEO's success is getting up at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. So yeah, I wish I'm not. I it's very difficult for me to wake up so early. So I always wish that I got up so early and get out everything done. So just for that, I'm gonna say night owl.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can dig that. But yeah, I mean, like you said, I've been seeing so many books and so many YouTube videos about um top 500 such and such. Wake up at 4 in the morning. You know, say, damn, I don't wake up to 7:30. Leave me alone. I don't really
Actually,
wake up then. I just lay there. Do.
there's some research done that, like, and I was like, oh, I had a job where I started at 10. I think I was like 10 to 6:30. And I remember feeling so good then. And there's some research about that there's some good hours. So know your body, do what's good for you. If you have ADHD, you might not, you might get your, do your best thinking at nighttime. You're on a different clock. And if you wake up early, wonderful. Good for you.
Indeed. This is the last one because, I know you're busy. I know you're a busy lady.
Okay.
Sense of humor or sense of style, and why?
Well, I know the answer. 100% it's sense of humor.
Yeah.
100%. For me, I knew that I wanted a life filled with laughter. It feels good. It releases all the good chemicals in your brain. You have to be smart to be funny. And I think it's just such a welcoming, like, all-encompassing, right? If you're telling jokes or if you're telling funny stories and bringing people in, it's an embracer. But style is also important. Let's just say close second.
Tell people about So This Is Love.club and tell them other ways they can contact you if you feel comfortable with that.
Sure. Yes. So I am a marriage and family therapist in the state of California, and I'm also a dating and relationship coach, and that business is called So This Is Love. Where, like I said, I want to help everyone who's trying to love and be loved. I do have individual coaching, and right now, my group is a small group coaching program for women called Reset Yourself for Love. And looking for love is a tough journey. You need your hiking boots. You need to pack some snacks. You need to call some friends. It is a tough journey, and I've had so many clients just say, "That's it. I need to get out of the dating game, and I need to just focus on myself for a while. It's not working. I don't know. I just need to focus on myself. I gotta work on some stuff." And so I created this course, this group support kind of system for that very reason. Sure, if you feel like listen to your intuition. If you need to take a break, you need to focus on yourself. Your intuition is telling you that, follow it. That's awesome. What do you need to do? What is going to set yourself up to find the love you want? Also, I want to break the stigma of being single, because it's something that none of us can control. You can't control the single seasons in your life. You can certainly, and you're going to have single seasons in your relationships, out after your relationships, before your relationships. So I want to take the stigma away from that, because there's a whole bunch of people postponing their lives because they think that it really doesn't count unless they're partnered. It really doesn't count until someone chooses me. And I just think that's a big scam. So I want to kind of help women just live just like adventurous, wonderful lives in any season of life. And let's get real clear on what's not working and how we need to reset yourself for love. So you can find me at sothisIsLove.club, and you can actually just get there's a free resource in there on the first step to resetting yourself for love. You can find me on Instagram as well at sothisIsLove.club. And again, I'm Valerie Diluggo. Thank you so much.
Yes, and that was Valerie Diluggo, LMFT in California. And her theme is stop that toxic shit before it starts. Check her out at sothissislove.com. That's thisislove.com. Oh, I'm sorry. Thisislove.club.
Yes.
So thisislove.club. See, we're so conditioned to say .org, .net, .com that there's now new domains out like .club, .social, .tech, .podcast, .this, .that. So my mistake. So this is love.club. Because when you're making love in the club, that's love. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the Urban Breakdown. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the More Than Therapy podcast, featuring hit shows such as, these interviews, of course. And that's the More Than Therapy podcast. Please subscribe by any way in which you push play to listen to your favorite podcast. And that's the More Than Therapy podcast. Thank you, Valerie.
Thank you so much. It was great being with you.
Indeed, you too. Be well, be great. But remember, when it comes to this podcast, you are never, ever too late.